What makes Lambo so special when it can be built for everyone by anyone?
Because if he starts printing money, then we have a possibility of getting another bull run.
Maybe we're already in the matrix.
Will crypto go away and die? Like, definitely not. Everything is pumping except from crypto. So the question is, why does crypto suck so much?
Why does crypto suck so much?
What is your single word answer to that?
Trump.
Trump. Well, I would say actually...
That's a pretty good answer.
Well, yeah, it is. But I would actually say like Trump is the only chance we have at not completely dumping into a bear market. Because if he starts printing money, then we have a possibility of getting another bull run. If he doesn't, then we're fucked. I think it's a good answer, and it's partly true. But again, my feeling is that we are most likely going to head towards a bear market. Like, okay, for example, 2021 double top, and then it had this kind of like consolidation or whatever it's called for dumping.
But you know what I hate about like people when they say, oh, the Trump is so good for crypto. All of the regulations is doing good. All of this is doing good. Blah blah blah. Like all of this stuff wouldn't happen if Trump wasn't in office. One, we don't know that. Right?
Sure.
Anyone that was in power could have potentially been good for crypto. What we do know is that crypto has been down only ever since Trump took power. So even if he is this like great figure for crypto, why hasn't it been pumping?
Well, like you said, everyone says, oh, Trump is so good for crypto, but it's only been down. So in this sense, it's like Trump is neither good nor bad for crypto. Crypto just does what it wants to do. But so your answer was, I said, what is the one word answer to why crypto sucks? You said Trump. And I think there's an argument for both sides. This is why I give the...
So how about well, it's more than one word, but it's like hyphenated. This is to be like one thing. 4-year cycle.
So you think that there is a 4-year cycle and we are doomed to be stuck in it?
If Trump is good for crypto, and the only reason that crypto is going down is not because of, whatever Trump does or whatever, but only because crypto does whatever it wants to do, then the only other alternative is that it's following the 4-year cycle.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying is that if we have a bear market from now, say for the next 6 months...
We've been in a bear market, dude.
Well, we've had downtrends, right? But this is my point. So if you look at the chart...
So you don't think, since October 10th, that massive collapse, we have not been in a bear market?
The last season to this season, the chart is almost identical.
Yeah. But
what happened last time is from here, it dumped really hard. And so if that happens, then it's just a 4-year cycle. It's slightly longer than 4 years. But if it dumps straight down from here to say like 60K or something, then yeah, we just had another cycle. But again, this is why I'm saying Trump is the only thing I can see that would break that. If he does nothing, chances are we're going to go straight down. But if there's easy money, it's possible that we have a super cycle. And I think we'll find this out in the next couple months. Because again, if you compare last bull market to this bull market, the chart is nearly identical.
Yeah, but literally everything else is going up except for crypto.
Yes, well, this is another argument for why it should go up.
So like in your argument that he needs to do something good for the markets, technically he already has been, right? Like everything else is pumping, only crypto is not pumping.
Yeah, I mean, the question would be why? Why is that the case? I don't know if you could put that on Trump's feet or whatever, but
Trump's hands.
Trump's nuts. Put it on Trump's nuts. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is the question, right? This is how we started this podcast. Like, gold is going up, stock market is going up, and yet crypto is not. It's, at best case, it's going sideways, at best. But why? I mean, it should go up. You think about like why people buying gold. It's this kind of like sell the dollar trade, right? They're thinking, okay, the dollar's going to go down. Let's move our money out. Let's move our funds out of dollars into something more stable, which is exactly what Bitcoin was created for. Like that is the whole purpose of Bitcoin. And yet it hasn't actually done it.
I mean, Bitcoin's supposed to be like digital gold, right?
Exactly.
It's supposed to be like a storage of value, but no one sees it as a storage of value. If anything, I think that, even Wall Street, even like the big dogs see it as a meme coin. So like what is going to make them, what is going to change that vision, right? Like what is going to make it pump like gold is pumping right now?
Well, people said things like ETFs, said things like regulation. I mean, okay, to speak about the good things, all the big banks now have some sort of Bitcoin strategy or Bitcoin ETF, or it's part of their portfolio allocation. Pretty much every single bank has that. And every single bank is interested in stablecoins. So these are the two things that a lot of people say when this happens.
Yeah, but stablecoins is, in my opinion, terrible for crypto. Like everyone's saying, oh, it's a good thing for crypto. It's a good thing for blockchain. It's terrible for crypto.
Yeah, well, no one makes money from stablecoins except from the stablecoin issuers.
Well, I mean, like stablecoins is great for like transferring, funds in a stable manner from like me to you or international or whatever. But in 2017, most people that are trading now don't know or remember the experience of trading before stablecoins came. Like in 2017 and before, people used to trade between Bitcoin and altcoins. So all of the money always stayed in crypto.
Yeah.
It just went back and forth between the two, right? It didn't funnel out into stablecoins. And now this entire cycle, we see pretty much nothing going into altcoins.
Yeah.
Everything's just going into Bitcoin or stablecoins.
Yeah.
We're seeing, Tether has blown up from like top 30 to like now I think it's like 3 or 4, like top 5,
Yep.
right? I think eventually Tether will become number 1.
Yep.
And crypto will essentially, I hope not fade away, but I feel like all of the money and all of the investments and all that stuff will be pretty much localized into the blue chips.
Yep.
Right.
But this has been my argument for a long time. So people are speculating on crypto. When we say, oh, why hasn't crypto gone up? We're talking about the price value, right? But I've always seen that, like, okay, so the price value is unpredictable because people speculate. But what I do know is the technology has had steady progress. The legislation has had steady progress. The technology is a steady progress. It is much better now than it was, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah, but like, okay, so like in the dot-com bubble, right? Let's look at it. Let's reference it like like the dot-com bubble. The dot-com bubble, when it happened, a big boom. Let's say that was around like 2017 to like 2021. Every website was like money was just thrown at it because there was like this huge craze, all of this new technology. They think, oh, all of this stuff is like gonna go crazy. Like we're seeing right now with AI, right? Like there's just money being thrown at like all the different AI
bubble.
stuff. Yeah, it's a bubble. But then the dot-com bubble burst, and then the internet's obviously still here, right? It changed our lives. I mean, we're on the internet right now. It changed our lives dramatically, but really only a few companies survived from the dot-com bubble.
Yeah, so those companies are the rulers of the world now.
Yeah.
So so this analogy for the dot-com bubble is a good one because yes, there was a bubble and it popped. But also, again, this is speculation versus technology. The technology just continued to improve and improve and improve. And now we have Facebook and Google, all the biggest companies all were formed during this time. Yeah. And so the same thing applies for crypto. I think in terms of speculation, these meme coin manias, I don't know if that's maybe that bubble has already popped, or maybe we'll have another one. But it could be that it's popped and will never come back. Will crypto go away and die? Like, definitely not. This is why I say, like, legislation is here forever. Banks are buying it because they see it as, like, not as a way to make money, but as, like, a more efficient technology, a more efficient rails to do their business.
Yeah, but we're seeing that mostly with stablecoins. I don't think that a lot of business is going to be done with Bitcoin, or even a lot of these other, like,
that's true.
Stuff. Maybe, like, I'm really interested in, like, Tau. I think that Tau is definitely going to be
the AI company?
Yeah.
Or the AI crypto?
BitTensor.
Yeah.
I feel like there's going to be some, even now, that are going to survive and become like this, like Amazon and Microsoft and Google type of companies. But I feel like most of that we've already figured out.
Yeah.
Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin,
Chainlink. There's other areas, right? There are providers like Chainlink, like, for example, Hyperliquid. I totally agree. I think as time goes on, there's going to be less and less crazy revolutionary inventions within crypto, but the blue chips will continue to grow. I think you're right. Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin. I think there are smaller use cases like Tau and maybe Chainlink. My favorite one is XLP, which is Tether's blockchain. And so their idea is instead of using gas, you use like USDT to fund transactions on chain. But I totally agree. I think
XLP is Pulse, right?
Plasma, yeah. But I think you're right. I think that as time goes on, these kind of like new innovations there's gonna be less and less and less, and it's gonna consolidate into these blue chips. I think you're right. And so that means we can't get a 1000x anymore, but we can still. It's a good investment. Again, if I invested in Google in the year 2000, well, it's still a great investment. If I invested in, say, whenever it was founded, I don't know, 1997 or whenever Google started, that's a much better investment. But I still think it's a good use case, or a good investment.
But the days of making a buttload of money essentially disappear, right? Of life-changing money in like 1 year goes away, right?
Which is maybe why people are less interested. They're in it for that kind of that bubble period. And now if they can't see 1,000 return,
I mean,
then
people are it's a bubble happens because everyone wants to start making money quick, but then everyone can start making money quick because it's a bubble, right? Because everyone's coming in, right? So if people are disinterested because they don't think that they can do that, then that's basically going to stifle a lot of growth and innovation in the space in terms of like, small mom and pop shops.
yeah.
I think a lot of the scams are going to, well, actually the scams are probably still going to be there because even in the stock market, we still have tons of scams that are happening all the time. But it's just, I don't know. I guess you could say it's like a salty realization that we may never have another like DeFi summer, for example, right?
I think maybe we have one more in us, because when you compare the crypto market to the rest of the financial world, there's still a lot of room for growth there. And again, my prediction is that crypto will be the rails of the financial future. I'm not saying the meme coin people make thousands of meme coins, but I think that all banks will start to use blockchains as internal ledgers and cross bank to bank that maybe has some sort of bridge. And so I still think there's growth there, and maybe it's massive growth, but I don't think. I think the early days are now done. Just like the internet, right? Like I could start an internet company and it's really, really cutthroat because it's already been done. There's a bazillion people out there that I'm competing with. And there's already Google that has infinite resources. And so we're heading towards that type of environment where it's going to be more and more difficult to start a crypto company. It's going to be more and more difficult to find those unicorn companies. But again, I don't think it's dead. I think it's definitely possible that we're heading towards a bear market, another year or 2 or 3 of kind of down prices.
Yeah, but if it recovers from there, then I feel like it's like why get into altcoins if everyone's going into the blue chips, then you just buy Bitcoin and the days of making a lot of money off blue chip. Everyone says like, oh, it's early. It's not fucking early. Ugh, I need to stop cursing, but it's not early. When I started trading when I started investing 2015, 2016, trading 2017, that was early. When I first learned about Bitcoin in 2012, that was super early. Now, it is not early.
It's nearly 20 years old, right? So,
yeah. So like the I don't know. It's just a bad realization, I guess. I'm just.
But then it's also like a lot of things that was created in crypto that have not necessarily been adopted yet. Like I think of, for example, a social identity, having some sort of account-based NFT that I plug it into Google, I plug it into whatever. Just as an example, there are these use cases where it's like they haven't been adopted yet, but it actually is a technology that makes more sense than what we currently have. Like, for example, on like if I have a Steam account, to have that be sellable and transferable via NFTs makes a lot of sense, but it's not being done yet. And so, yes, maybe I may not get a 10,000% return, but there's still these use cases where once it starts to get adopted, there is some kind of speculation that could happen there that you could profit from. But it's not going to be like the early days. I agree. But I mean, at the same time, like there's always a new thing, right? Maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
What's the new thing?
Well, again, I was gonna say it was AI. If you invested in AI companies 10 years ago,
Pokemon cards is the new thing.
well, who knows, right? No one knows what the new thing is. One of the interesting things about crypto and AI is that it's a technology that you can integrate into other technologies. So, for example, if there's like if nanotechnology is the new thing of the future, you can use crypto rails as part of that nanotechnology, just like you can use AI rails as part of the technology.
Except that, okay, so like one of the things that I think is going to be like the new thing is energy, right? So like fusion reactors and like stuff like that. That's just like one of the things that I'm speculating is going to be like the next.
I think you're right.
Big wave. But that is traded on the stock market. That is not traded in crypto. Now, the way that it can bridge over to crypto is now we see the news of the New York Stock Exchange opening up a 24-hour traded, equities market using blockchain technology and all that stuff, right? So tokenized RWAs. So I think that the traditional markets are going to receive a huge upgrade that allows people to trade, whenever they want all over the world.
On crypto rails.
Crypto rails. I think they do receive a huge update, but that won't, we're not going to have fusion reactor companies springing up on, with ICOs or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just not really going to be that attached to crypto, except for the fact that you can trade it on like TradFi markets now more easily. And the one positive thing about that as well, though, especially now with that I have the experience of starting what exchange. Um, when the New York Stock Exchange opens up these tokenized stocks, that will provide a ton of liquidity for other exchanges like What Exchange,
Yeah.
Bybit, or Binance, whatever, to basically hedge all of their trades over to the New York Stock Exchange. There's going to be market makers that are going to do that. So now there's going to be a ton of liquidity for tokenized stocks. The bad thing is that nobody's going to need these exchanges anymore. Like right now, Binance is one of the biggest powerhouses. They do way more volume than pretty much anything,
Yep.
right? And than all the banks. But they but that's only because they essentially had a monopoly, or they didn't have
Yeah.
much competition. Once the New York Stock Exchange comes out, like, why would people trade on Binance and trust Binance when they can trade on the New York Stock Exchange, which is, a regulated government entity essentially?
Well, I think that you're right that the New York Stock Exchange will probably kill someone like Binance. But I think there's always going to be a place for decentralized exchanges, because there's a fundamental difference between a centralized exchange like the New York Stock Exchange and something like Uniswap. And so I think both of these can exist. But yeah, I would say the centralized exchange is somewhere between these two, right? Like centralized exchanges are kind of DeFi in some ways, but it's not fully centralized like a New York Stock Exchange is. So yeah, you're right. I think that it could be a huge threat to centralized exchanges. But I also think, yeah, like
Well, DeFi, then the main selling point of DeFi is basically anonymity, right? No KYC trading. And that's a very niche market. And even then, when all of the banks and everything are provide this for users to trade easily, any user, and then the infrastructure and regulations for crypto changes vastly to where everyone is going to need to KYC eventually. Then that basically blocks all of that out. Like DeFi and crypto trading as we know it now is going to disappear in 10 years.
Well, I see. So I agree. Anonymity is a major use case for DeFi, decentralized exchanges. But I think the bigger thing is that it's this open source type environment where anyone can build upon whatever. And this is it's like Doom was the first one to. Doom had a game, and then they allowed their players to like recreate new Doom maps. And it was this kind of like user creation that led to this kind of viral growth. And I see DeFi and this kind of open source environment. That's the major advantage. Say if there is a New York Stock Exchange, they have more money, they have more users, but also Uniswap or the DeFi environment in general is able to adapt much faster. Say if there's some sort of new improvement to Ethereum, it's going to be much faster, much more quickly adopted by a decentralized exchange than it would be the New York Stock Exchange. And so this is what I'm saying. It's like they are more flexible. They have less money, less power, but they're also more flexible. The other thing I see probably coming in the future is as AI increases, I do think that AI would be using these more open source, more decentralized technologies because it's faster. Or it's not faster. It's more that they can access this and play with it for their own purposes. For an agent to interface with, say, the New York Stock Exchange, yes, they're going to need to have some sort of account. They're going to have to be like licensed and have a passport and all this stuff. Whereas like DeFi, it's going to be the wild wild west for agents, and they can integrate with these things much more easily.
No, I think that in the future we're gonna like agentic trading, right?
Yes. Would that happen on the stock exchange, or would that happen in the?
Well, Orderly just came out. Actually, I should send you the link. I think that you'll really like it. But Orderly just came out with something called like I am Star Child, and it's there's vibe coding.
Yeah.
Right now, there's vibe trading, where it's like,
Oh, I like that.
they have, I think it's like a modified Claude code, AI algorithm or whatever that they trained to specifically be for like trading, but you can tell it like what sort of strategies you want, like whenever the RSI hits this amount and this happens over here and whatever, like execute this trade, and it executes everything for you. You plug in your APIs, blah blah. It codes it up in Python and all this stuff. I just started testing it or checking it out today, so I'm not too experienced with it, but it seems pretty cool. The concept seems pretty cool, but I think that.
But just to be clear, so it's essentially you have your portfolio in Orderly, and you have an agent.
I don't know if this is connected to Orderly. I think that it's connected to all of the centralized exchanges.
Well, it's not something Orderly made. It's like a system that can plug into Orderly.
Well, it's Chronos.
Okay, Chronos, whatever. Okay, so they did make it. Someone. Okay, but just to get it clear in my head, so essentially an AI agent has access to your funds and is able to do research and then make a trade on your behalf, both buy and sell, right? Something like
I
that.
think so. I
Okay.
like it's basically making the strategy for you, and then you take the code or whatever and you host it wherever, and then it can like execute. I don't know. I haven't really
I've
messed.
seen those competitions, right? Between like they have where it's like this model versus this model versus this model. They give it $10,000 and see which bot or which LLM can make more profit.
Right on the scene there. I haven't seen that, but
Well, it's pretty cool, dude. So they compete like say Gemini versus Grok versus Anthropic. They give each of these agents $10,000 and they give them access to like like news APIs and all that. And then at the end of the week the agent with the most money wins. But I say because like essentially that's what you're describing. It's like I'm now in control of my own agent that can then trade for me.
well, like right. I think that this technology or this like product is interesting because right now there's a huge learning curve and like block
Yeah.
to create your own like automated trading desk, essentially, right? Um, but I think you usually need a quant, you need a whole team, devs, blah blah. But I think with this, just like in vibe coding, that basically it doesn't completely disappear, but at least it like gets rid of that by like half or
Yeah.
something, right? And I think in the future you're just gonna be able to tell like think of it as like an automated financial planner. I think that you'll be able to tell your bot, you want a DCA, right? Like you want a dollar cost average into Bitcoin or into whatever,
Yeah.
and do this, and this, and then once it takes enough profit, you tell it to like take profits here, and then you move
Yeah.
the funds over to a stablecoin farm, and it just like compounds and it does this thing. And I feel like everyone is gonna be able to start doing that in the future.
Agreed.
And and especially with like the RWA 24-hour market, we're just gonna have nothing but a bunch of bots essentially trading for us.
Yeah. Agreed.
And while everyone's just sitting around doing nothing, I feel like that's gonna be the future of trading, just like in the future of programming
Yeah.
and development is just a bunch of bots developing.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of people, a lot of my friends and family, they don't want to buy stocks. They don't want to buy crypto. They just want to put their money into an account and then have that person trade for them. But the problem with that is that's a human. They're taking a cut on this. If you have your own agent or bot, you can hyper personalize it for you, for your exact risk profile or your exact kind of like area.
Or somebody who makes the bot or the strategy can loan it out for, I don't know, 5% on top, and everyone can just start doing the strategy, right? Something like that.
So this is what I was saying. It's like these bots, there's no reason why they would be swiping your credit card for each time they buy and sell. It makes much more sense that this bot has your private key and it's just doing trades with your own funds. There's no need to use like Visa's payment rails.
But I think in the future, let's say JP Morgan Chase, when they're allowing trading on all this stuff, I think that they're gonna have like these sort of API connections. They might even have their own bot systems that they provide to their clients, right? Because they're essentially cutting out their own staff and automating it because they have like these financial planners that they have for people, right? So they're gonna. It's just like these kiosks, these like pay for your own burger kiosk at McDonald's, cutting out a bunch of these staff that are just there taking orders, right? Same sort of thing I think is gonna happen for a lot of these stuff. So your argument is like, okay, DeFi is gonna be there for people that want to, or for connecting bots and making it easier to trade. I think that that's true up to a certain point, maybe for like 3, 4, 5 years, but then after that, everyone is gonna have it everywhere and provide it to all.
The question is these, for example, JP Morgan, I agree, they will have their own version of the system. But how do they build that? They will probably take the open source version, modify it for their own personal uses, and then have an internal version. But as that's happening, that the open source version will continue to evolve and adapt. It's like survival of the fittest, right? This is how open source works. People use the best technology that's around at that moment. And if someone creates a new technology that's better, they start using that. And so I agree. They will have their own centralized versions that most people will use because most people don't want to use DeFi. But my argument is that DeFi will never die because it is the fittest version of this. It's going to be the most cutting edge because this is the version that everyone can use for free. And so people will use it for free until there's another version that's for free. So I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, centralized providers will always win because it's safer and easier for most people. But I don't think they will kill decentralized stuff. Or DeFi stuff.
I don't think it'll kill it completely, but in the way that we know and experience crypto now is gonna essentially be considered dead. I mean, think about like pirating, right? Napster, LimeWare, everyone did it. It was huge back in the day. Wares, forums and all that stuff. Everyone did it. It was huge back in the day, right? Technically, It's still around.
I still torrent all the time.
Oh, well, I mean,
Most people don't, though. I agree.
police get them. But like most people don't anymore because it's risky. You know, it's like so like why torrent when you can just pay for a $20 Netflix?
Side story: when I was 13, I downloaded The Grudge through a torrent. Right, you know The Grudge, the movie The Grudge,
And then you got
and somehow my ISP found out, and they sent a team to our house to manually delete that file from our computer. And my stepdad was so pissed.
that's the thing.
This is the thing about, okay, so I think torrenting is the best. Actually, Bitcoin was somewhat based on the torrenting network. But anyways, I think torrenting is a great example of what the reasons why Bitcoin will never die, or DeFi will never die, because like people still use it even today.
But again, it's gonna be so like fringe,
For sure.
amount of community.
No, I agree.
It's gonna be bullshit.
People use DeFi today because people have been using DeFi because there's been no other better option. And when better options arise, they'll start using the better options. But they will never be able to crush Bitcoin and DeFi completely. Say if there's like, okay, USDT.
I don't think Bitcoin's gonna be crushed. I think Bitcoin's gonna stick around forever.
That's what I mean. Again, it's like a torrent. The government's wanted to crush torrents, but you can't because it's a truly decentralized platform. The same thing applies to Bitcoin. They will never crush it. But will people use it on a day-to-day basis?
No,
Probably not.
But this is different. That's different. That's like we're talking about like Bitcoin as an investment. I think it's gonna be around. I think it's gonna be like, the digital gold, right? Sort of thing. But I'm talking about like the community, the crypto community, the CT, right? Like that sort of stuff.
Oh, that
the
like that, yeah.
hardcore investors, the bubbles, the retail that want to, get rich quick, like that sort of stuff. I feel like all of that is going to be on.
No, people came for the money. As soon as that money dries up, they're going to go do something else. But again, just like torrenting, I torrented 20 years ago. I torrent 10 years ago. I torrent now. I'm always going to be in it. So there are people that are in it for the technology. And again, it comes down to this idea of speculation versus technology. Like, why are you here? Are you here to make millions of dollars, or are you here because you think it's a cool technology for the ethos? And it's just people are like, and no hate, like people come to make money, and that's totally fine. But I agree. I think we're probably heading towards less profits in the future, which probably means less consumers in the future, or less interested people in the future. Though again, I do think that it will be forever integrated into other things. Like say if AI agents are a thing, I think they will be using crypto rails, whether that's a centralized crypto rail or decentralized. They will be using this technology because it's the most efficient technology. In the same way that, like, for example, Meta uses torrents to share files between their staff, just because it's the most effective way to move large files across the world.
Meta uses torrents, really?
They use torrents to share files internally. They don't, because imagine you're Meta, you go to share like a 20 gigabyte file. You could carry like USB stick or all different ways, but torrenting is the most efficient way to do that. And that's why torrenting was created. It was like, we need to distribute these files around the world to many people. How do we do this? And that's why torrenting was created. And the same way, the financial technology of crypto is the same thing, where it's like, if you want to send money from this person to this person in Africa, well, you can use a wire transfer, you can use a Visa network, or you can use crypto, and it takes a second.
Right, so let's start a control. Let's pivot really quick the conversation. I want to talk about like gold and rocks and like useless metals, right?
Yep.
Well, not useless. I guess there's some use for them.
Gold is very useful. It's not only a rare.
I mean, isn't gold used for like all of the fucking chips and everything?
Yeah, well, many technologies. It's because it's very good at conducting electricities. So
and silver's used in a lot of medical.
Well, so saying, so the gold and silver are interesting because they are, well, okay, gold specifically, it's very, very rare in the Earth's crust. And so the reason why gold's price doesn't just drop to zero is because it's really hard to mine it. In order to mine this gold, you have to put a lot of effort in. Same thing with precious or heavy metals, right? Like things like lithium. Lithium is actually very abundant in the Earth's crust. It's just really hard to refine it. You have to like dig a bunch of rock and you have to refine out these specific chemicals. And so my point being, it's like, it takes a certain amount of effort to get this gold, which has kept the price quite stable. And even if we have improving technologies, we have improving demand for this gold. So these things end up balancing.
No, well, I mean, gold's gonna collapse when we start mining asteroids.
Yeah, true.
This shit's gonna just plummet.
Yeah,
but I mean, because that's like a whole like huge supply.
Well, so let's talk about the Earth's crust. It's distributed quite. The distribution is quite standard around the Earth's crust, and so to get access to it, say 5,000 years ago to now, of course we're mining more gold, but we also have more use for gold, and so it's stayed about balanced.
But I think that argument is like why Bitcoin will be around forever.
Oh, I agree.
And will be like the digital gold thing because it's cold. You can't like find an asteroid that has more Bitcoin. right? Or another planet or
Whatever the other argument so I agree, I totally agree. But there's one other a store of value that I think is an interesting thing where if you just had energy as the currency. So I have a battery, like I have a battery pack. If I want to buy something, I give them a certain amount of juice. I feel like that could, because Bitcoin is essentially an abstraction of energy, right? It's a proof of work. I put in a certain amount of energy. I have a credit that's created from that. But if you go even deeper in that, it's just energy itself. So I carry around a battery, I buy something, give them energy, then they use that either to spend more or to spend or to use.
Or what about time? Like that movie? That's what your conversation of that really
yeah, I mean,
reminds me of that movie.
that's what's the name of that? Is Justin
Timberlake.
yeah, it's a good movie. I mean, obviously so time would be so time and space, right? So space is energy. Things are energy. So time is the other version of this, but there's no way to package time really, unless we have an artificial limit on the time you can live, which is the point of that movie, right?
I mean, I think we need to smoke some DMT or something to crack down into that. That's a lot more deeper than I was thinking of getting in. But
just like you said, I think energy is a future technology that's about to boom. It's already booming, right? But then again, there's this idea of using energy as a currency. And I find it very interesting because it's similar to gold, right? That you can use it.
After the fusion reactors actually are like made, fission or fusion? Fission, right? I think it's called fission.
Fission is splitting, fusion is joining.
I think it's fission reactors, right?
Fusion, both of them are.
Oh, whatever.
The sun is fusion.
The new reactors that they're making, I forgot what they're called. But after that stuff is made, where essentially once it makes the energy to do it, it can make more for free or something like that, right? I mean, I'm not a fucking energy scientist, but once that's done and we unlock that technology, then technically wouldn't energy be
abundant?
Yeah. So like, so then the price essentially of energy would collapse.
Yeah. Well, so there's this idea of small portable reactors, SMRs, right? Small modular reactors, SMRs. This is the idea that every city, every person has their own little kind of fusion reactor, right? And like you said, you have
Their own nuke,
essentially, but they're quite safe. But anyways, the point is, it's like, okay, people like Elon say, why would you do that? Because the sun is essentially a giant fusion reactor. And so if you could harness the energy of the sun, you wouldn't need to do it on the earth. Earth is a tiny fraction of what the sun produces. And so we need better ways to capture the sun's energy, because in the solar system, the majority of the energy comes from the sun.
Yeah, but that's talking about like a type.
Yeah, the Dyson
one or the type 1 or type.
Yeah, Kardashev. I think type 1 is all the energy on the earth or something. I don't know
And I forget, but it's like one of those type of civilizations
where it's like U3 civilization.
It's like taking the power of the sun to power.
It's called a Dyson swarm. Yeah. So again, that's what I'm saying. The sun produces so much energy that.
But we're way too far from that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
We're super far from that. Even we can't even put frickin', we can't even figure out how to put solar panels in space to get a boost in stuff, because there's so much trash and debris around our orbit and all that stuff.
But the argument I'm making is that we could capture more of the sun's energy, not just in in a Dyson swarm in space, but say if we like had a bunch of solar panels in Africa or something, or in America where they have a bunch of open land, you can produce a lot of energy that way. Because the sun is so prolific.
Well, I think they said something like if we only took like a portion of Africa, which Africa is huge, by the way bigger than it looks like on the map. But if we took like a portion of Africa's desert and filled it up with solar panels, it'll power the entire like world's energy reserves that we have, right?
The problem is storing it though, because the sun comes and goes, as you know, right?
Not just storing, but also maintaining it.
Yeah,
right. So like, I think like with robots. Yeah, you saw the new World Economic Forum discussion where I think it was today or yesterday.
You talking about Elon? Talking about robots? Yeah, you said the end of next year. Which, by the way, that timeline keeps on bumping. Yeah, I think robots definitely are going to help this. But robots need power too. I mean,
yeah, but if we have the fission stuff or fusion or whatever the hell, right? If we have that new technology reactor that comes out that just starts, throwing out energy like is nuts.
I think SMRs are very, very likely. And I think, well, not likely, probably inevitable. Especially if you're talking about like data centers. If you want to run a data center, you need to have your own power source. And right now, a lot of these are gas turbines. And gas turbines are highly inefficient. And so an SMR, like doing fusion or probably fission reaction, like that is way more efficient than a gas turbine. And I think as long as you can keep it safe, yes, you will have localized power sources.
Yeah, but okay. So getting away from like the energy stuff though. Elon Musk said something about the robots where he's like, in the future, no one's gonna have to work.
Yeah.
We're just, just sitting around all day, I guess, and
More robots
jerking
than
each other off or something, right? Yeah, more robots than humans. They're doing everything, and we don't have to do anything. We're just like the overlords. I mean, how do you actually see that happening? How long do you
Yeah.
think that's gonna take? Like,
Oh, I mean, I think his timeline. He said by the end of next year he's going to start selling these publicly. I think it's probably.
that's bullshit. I think it's gonna delay. Like,
Well,
I think GTA 6 is gonna delay us.
I mean, it reminds me of like when Tesla first came out, they had the Roadster, right? And so they had this like very, very expensive sports car version of their first electric car.
Mm.
But then they didn't have the actual Model T, right? Whatever it was.
Mm.
Their first model for a long time. And so I think that might be the case where it's like, yes, he sells them publicly, but not many people actually buy them. They're not very useful at first. But I do think, and it's not just me, I think most people believe that this is the next wave of innovation because we have AI, which is the brain.
Sure.
The next part is the physical embodiment of this computer, which is the robot. And then you put these two things together, and then you do have robots that can clean your solar panels.
And then you have what is that Terminator company?
Yeah, well, it's Terminator. There's also, so there's this. Are we heading towards a Mad Max future, or are we heading towards a Star Trek future? What do you think?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Star Trek, to be honest. So I don't really
Star
know.
Wars, then.
Star Wars, okay.
Yeah.
I would like a Star Wars future. I like it.
I'd say.
But I mean, I don't think that we would be Mad Max future because if it were, then it would just be robots killing each other. If anything, I think it would be: are we headed towards a Star Wars future, or are we headed towards a Matrix future?
Well,
That makes more sense to me because I don't see a world like Mad Max where we go all the way back. There's no technology. There's no
Yeah.
computers.
That would be a world where we stop. We're like, this is getting too much. Let's destroy everything because it's too scary and too much growth. Whereas like the Matrix is it gets out of our control.
I don't think that humans would be able to do that.
I wonder if today if we could even do that. If we pass that kind of tipping point, the event horizon. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. So I think you're probably right. There's Mad Max where we stop all technology. Then there's the Matrix where technology gets out of our control and dominates us. And then there's Star Trek where it's like we have a nice balance. I don't know which one's more likely. I hope that it's Star Trek, Star Wars. I mean, also there's.
I don't think I don't see us going into like a Mad Max though because
I don't either.
I feel like even if there was like an emergency and we had to make the choice to stop it, humans, whoever's in power, would be like, "Oh, we cannot do that. It'll take us back to the Stone Age. We have to figure out a way to solve the problem." And then either they solve the problem and we get into like the Star Wars future, or they don't, and we get sucked into the Matrix and the computers take over and all that BS.
I mean, I don't know. No one knows the future, right? There's this book called The Culture, and I would say it's somewhere between Star Trek. So I guess the biggest difference between Star Wars and Star Trek is everyone is equal and everyone has their own, everyone can have anything they want and let's explore the universe. It's like, kumbaya type stuff. Whereas Star Trek is way more capitalist, where people are doing things for money. There's poor people, there's rich people, there's robots, there's aliens, right? And so there's this kind of like, okay, if we have the best case scenario, there's still a gradation of like, is it good or bad? Whereas then there's a book called The Culture, and it's a really good book because it's this idea. It's called The Culture by Ian M. Banks, and the way he portrays AI as they're almost like another species. It's almost like an alien. They're like they do their own things. They don't fuck with us, but they help us. They have they fly us around. They help us stuff, but they're also like individuals. They just do what they want. They're their own unique creatures. I think that might also be instead of having the Matrix, they're dominating us. They're using our energy, but it could be just like robots don't care about us. They're like, okay, bye humans, let's go to this planet over here. That's another possibility that they could dominate us, but why would they? I mean, I guess they could be evil at heart, or they could just be like, bye, I'm out.
I mean, I don't think that they would use this for energy. I think that that's like Hollywood, right? It doesn't even make any sense that it would be used for energy. I could see some sort of future where it's like, oh, they think that they're saving us from ourselves, right? And so
the paperclip thing.
and so they store us into like this matrix. Maybe we're already in the matrix. Who knows? But this I'm just very intrigued by like this future that he points out. Where like, oh, no one's gonna need money. We're all gonna just sit at home and sing kumbaya and like everything that we're stressed out about. Oh, you got liquidated on Bitcoin and Ethereum when it dumped. Who cares? And 20 years.
So this is the second part about the culture that I wanted to mention. It's like, so there's the robot thing, but also there's the human thing. So what do so in this world where AI and robots you can have anything you want. You want to have a house? They just build your house for free. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be such a weird way to live?
It would.
I mean, like, for example, so many people want to get into crypto so that they can live the crypto dream, the American dream, the crypto dream of going out and buying a Lambo and having a bunch of girls and like living the, the crazy crypto king life. But when everyone can get whatever they want for free by robots, like what makes a Lambo so special when it can be built like for everyone by anyone?
So in this book, there's a book called The Player of Games, and it is this future that you're describing. So he's written a whole series about it. And for example, the one called The Player of Games, it's about this guy that wants to be the best at playing games in the universe. And so it's not that he's making money from it, but playing a game like chess, he wants to be able to beat anyone else. And so that's what he's known for, is like famous in the universe for being the best at playing games. And so there's still, the humans will always have this desire to compete and have some sort of ranking to know that they've accomplished something of value, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to physical objects or immaterial like money, right? It could also just be like pride, like I'm the best artist or I'm the fastest or whatever it is, And so that will always exist. And so yes, if I can have any food I want, it still doesn't mean I'm going to stop playing guitar or something. That's the most positive outlook. There's also a lot of negatives where people start to accumulate more wealth and take from others, like access to this.
But there's no wealth. You know what I'm saying? Like the concept of wealth disappears when
everyone has access to these robots. If only Jeff Bezos has their access to these robots.
True.
And I have to go through Jeff Bezos to access these things.
Then maybe it becomes like some social.
Well, then it becomes a math side thing,
like social credit score stuff, like China.
Yeah.
Right. I mean that can make sense. Like we get some sort of social credit score system, something like that.
But I think anyways, it's likely.
Interesting subject, but now my face is starting to freak out and everything. So, I guess wrap things up, right? So
yeah,
if you guys haven't already, make sure you follow, like, subscribe. Thank you, Enzo, for joining us, and we will see you guys next week. Peace.